Today in the studio with us, we have a good childhood friend of mine from Long Island, New York, big homie, Ray. What's going on? We want to welcome everyone to another chapter of The Architech.
You are now listening to the Chapter of the Architect podcast with DJ Architect and Vicky Vic.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, want to welcome everyone to another chapter of The Architect. This is to me, this is a special chapter. First and foremost, want to give a big shout out to Vicky Vic. Couldn't be with us today. He's on vacation, but he will be with us here in the near future. Today, our special guest is Ray. What's up, Ray?
Hey, what's going on?
Listen, Ray is a good childhood friend of mine. We grew up in New York. A lot of backstories, a lot of funny stories. But the reason that I'm bringing him on here is because, Ray, you got some work to do up in L.A., correct?
Yeah, I certainly do. I'm in the legal aspect of things as far as information technology is concerned. So it's a privilege to be out here in this beautiful sunny state of California.
You like it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But more importantly, I got a chance to reconnect with my childhood brother, DJ Architect.
Thank you, my brother. Absolutely. We have a lot of stories. But, you know, most importantly, the reason why I wanted to bring you on the chapter of The Architect is because not only do we have a lot of history, but we have a lot of musical history.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember growing up, as far as the different influences that we had around us, you could say pretty much go ahead and shape you up in some way, some form. At the same time, you know, you take times like these and they're able to think back and say to yourself, man, I grew up in a beautiful period of time when music was coming out.
We did. See, that's why I had to have you on the podcast. Like Vicky Vic, he was always asking me, hey, tell me about the golden age of hip hop. Like that, the golden age of hip hop. To me, it's strange when people say that. Because I grew up in it. We grew up in it. I didn't consider it the golden age because I was in the middle of it. We were in the middle of it. So we didn't know it was going to be considered the golden age of hip hop until 10, 15, 20 years later. And people started calling it the golden age of hip hop. So while we were going through it, we had no idea of how it would be redeemed so highly as an age, you know, a decade, 2 decades of hip hop where a lot of individuals nowadays, they call it the golden age of hip hop. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. And, you know, there's a reason why it's illustrated as being the golden age. And during the period of time that we were growing up, I mean, we had artists that were definitely not mainstream. There was a lot of artists that were from the underground, so to speak, and pretty much their words were very inspiring. They didn't need to show as far as you know, how much money you had, because it was more about love and the music and coming out.
Right. Now listen, Ray. So when I think of you, and I'm connecting you to music, of course. This is what I remember. I remember my brother was riding around in a gray station wagon Sentra with rims on it. Looked funny as hell, but it was fresh. Dope. It looked dope at the same time. You recall those days, right?
Oh, absolutely.
This was about, what, 1992, 1993?
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah. But you were also an individual where you would put together sound systems.
That is correct. I guess that's eventually my calling as far as making sure that things interconnected and worked, you know, for the betterment of whoever was trying to use that. It was technology in a sense, and it was something that pretty much we were all doing as far as from the streets are concerned. I mean, we were all wanting to have sound systems, put in neon lights into the cars.
The 1,000-watt Zeus's, you know, the amplifiers. I recall in the back of my brother's station wagon, it was a station wagon, so the back had it was a hatchback, and it had a lot of room in that hatchback, right?
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
I recall not to interrupt you, but you grabbed some plywood and some 2x4s, you shorten them up, and you put, I believe they were 410s, right?
Yes.
You put 410s in the back of that station wagon. What was pushing it?
So at that time, I believe we had it's definitely a Hyphonics style amplifier.
How many watts?
I want to say if it was a Zeus, it would have been a 600. But I think it was more of the fact of it was the trend, it was the things that you wanted to be in, and it infused us as far as using that technology at the time, not knowing what it was really,
right?
And just trying to make our rides fresh and impress the ladies and having a great time.
If you got rims on a station wagon, you trying to impress somebody, right? But most importantly, I remember driving up and down the streets of Front Street in Uniondale, blasting some music, and people were like, yeah, that station wagon looked funky, but those rims were dope, and the music that you were pumping out was off the hook. Getting back to my original point, you were the first individual that was walking around with a white tape, no, not CD, right? There was no MP3s at that time. It was a white tape, and it was a Wu-Tang tape. On one side, it had Protect Your Neck, and on the other side, it had Method Man. And you were the first one that brought that tape to us. And when I recall the moment that I heard it, I went crazy. I said, what the hell is this? This is something... I knew at that moment this was something groundbreaking. You know what I mean? Something that was going to bring a new wave of music into hip hop. What did you feel the first time you heard Protect Your Neck?
Well, first and foremost, I want to send a shout out to my my Dominicano brothers out there, specifically Ka. He put me on.
Kaboa. What's up, Kaboa? Where you at, Kaboa? Trying to get you on the Chapter of the Architect. Where you at, brother?
Where you at, brother? We need you up in here.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Kaboa put me on to the Wu-Tang Clan
from Westbury, Long Island, mind you.
Westbury, big up,
Westbury, 11590.
Woo. So so at that time, pretty much when Wu-Tang came out, I mean, they were fresh to death. And why? Because they built the bridge to our past, which was Kung Fu movies. I don't know how many cats out there used to watch the old Kung Fu flicks.
Yeah, man. At 1 o'clock, after it would come out on Channel 5, after wrestling, after WWF wrestling, and it would come out. And then you go outside with your karate shoes, and you think you was a master, and you get your ass kicked, come back inside the house crying with a broke leg.
Oh, man. I remember those days. Everybody wanted karate shoes. We didn't want the $100, $200 pair of Nikes. We all wanted karate shoes.
And they hurt, man, because that plastic was very thin. But you would walk outside the house with those karate shoes thinking, yeah, man, I'm Bruce Lee's cousin. I'm going to show you some things. You know what I mean?
It was a perfect time. Yeah.
But nonetheless, man, that Wu-Tang demo came out, and everybody went berserk. It caught around like wildfire. So how did you feel when you first heard those two tracks, Method Man and Protect Your Neck?
Well, it was very inspirational. Again, it brought me back to my childhood, growing up with the karate flicks. But it wasn't just me. So it's apparent. As a matter of fact, if anybody paid attention to the NFL draft, you see that there was a player out there by the name of Raekwon that obviously was influenced by the Wu-Tang Clan.
His parents were influenced by, yeah. Absolutely. But how did you feel? Was it explosive for you? Did you know they were gonna make a big dent?
Man, I was playing that over and over. I'm like, wait a second, these guys just hit us like being hit in the face with a pie. Would I just turn around like, where does this come from? And I mean, they were tremendous.
Listen. METHOD man, METHOD man, METHOD man. Listen. That was, to me, groundbreaking. Another groundbreaking album that came out around that time, and we used to go out and about to the clubs in New York. I'll name a couple: Paradise in Oceanside, The Tunnel out in the city being New York City, Escapes out in Merrick, I believe, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
The Red Zone, all these different clubs. And then you have Nas' Illmatic drop. Game changer. Right off the bat. Nas' Illmatic, game changer. Another album that the moment that I heard it, I said a lot of individuals have got to step up their game, because this young kid is about to make some explosive music based off what we originally heard. What was the first tracks that he came out with? We were listening to Represent, One Love. Great tracks. How did you feel the first moment you heard Illmatic?
Well, I'm not even going to lie to you. Illmatic was groundbreaking. Pretty much definitely had the streets' attention. But there's one jam that I still play to this day, and I catch people off guard, and that's Uchi Wally. Oh yeah,
that's a nasty one. But you know what? That's a hard song, man. Jungle goes in hard on that joint. You know what I mean? Jungle goes in hard on that joint. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, he took it to the next level. I mean, I think he may have inspired Akinelli with the "Put It in Your Mouth" track as well. So, you know, he was definitely influencing more than just me.
Listen, let's go back real quick when we were young. Not that they were old. We're not old, ladies and gentlemen. But let's go back to the days where we were still in grade school. I remember one particular Saturday evening. It was probably sometime in the summer, because I recall I was sweating, 272 Monitor Street, Westbury, New York. And this particular Saturday evening, we hear, I'm not sure if it was Red Alert, perhaps, was playing The Show.
Oh, man.
With Dougie Fresh and Slick
yeah.
Rick.
The Show. I mean, you could play that probably for the next 100 years and it'll still be fresh to death, as we used to say back in the days.
Listen, that song, every time I listen to it, it brings me back to that house at 272 Monitor Street. We had a bunch of good memories in that house. I broke my clavicle in that house. You remember that story?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, how can I forget it? I mean, you guys had me pinned down to the floor, and you were doing the Randy Macho Man Savage.
I was doing the, the hands up in the air. Was about to come and hit you with the elbow.
You call that flying elbow was coming. I saw that through the corner of my eye. Moved that mattress, and well, the rest is history.
Listen, so ladies and gentlemen, we were big WWE fans at the time. You know, we loved it. We thought we were wrestlers. So we had this mattress on the ground, and then we had these bunk beds stacked up. And I thought I was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, or, Macho Man Randy Savage. So I would go up on top of these, on top of the bunk bed, and I would catch these guys off guard because I was small. You know, these guys are, 2 or 3 years older than me at the time. And I would catch them off guard while these big, humongous guys are over there doing their thing. I would sneak up, climb up on the top bunk bed, and not come through with an elbow on top of their head. And all of a sudden, these guys are like, what the hell is this guy doing, you know? Ray sees me. He moves the mattress. And my brother sees me doing the same thing. And in midair, my brother catches me. And he throws me on the ground. And because that mattress is no longer there, my shoulder ends up hitting the wood. And I end up breaking my clavicle. So I hit the deck, I hit the wood, and I know immediately something is wrong. I'm like, oh, whoa, time out. And these guys, the gorillas that they were, continue to kick me. And I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, stop! I'm hurt. And these guys are laughing.
That pretty much told us you wanted more.
And these guys are laughing, and they continue to kick me in the head. And they finally got the point, hey, I'm hurt. So as they're attempting to lift me up, I fart, and they just let me drop, which hurt me even more. Nonetheless, I was in that, you were trying to be Mr. Miyagi. Karate Kid was popping around that time, right? So you start to do the Mr. Miyagi thing, and you put it on my clavicle, and you start to move me, and I'm start to scream, and I'm like, get the fuck off me, man. So I'm there. That happened around 12:30 in the afternoon. So I'm laying there on my chest. I get a fever. My mom doesn't come home until about 4:45 in the afternoon. Kicks my brother's ass because now she's pissed off at my brother that he's been letting me lay there, not called her up to say, hey, my brother needs medical attention. I have to go. They rushed me to the hospital, and they have to like recontort my clavicle. But that was one of many stories at 272 Monitor Street. You can hear this podcast in its entirety and all other chapters on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. The links to this episode can also be found below in the description for your convenience. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.